Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Standoff here, Season 1, Episode 12 of your Rugby League show. And tonight we've got a lot of interesting news to get through and a lot of games to get through on the weekend, which are fantastic to see. And I'll now introduce my fellow league enthusiast, Brad Inger, who joins me every Wednesday here at 8 p.m. Good evening, Brad.
Good evening, Sanjay, and good evening to all our listeners. There were some really good tight games this week, and I look forward to talking about them.
Yeah, like obviously, I think for the first time this season, we've seen, you can go back to the old saying, I guess, any team can beat any other team. And I think we saw a little bit of that on the weekend. Obviously, the pace of the game has changed this season, but we'll dive into that a little bit later. Brad, we're here every Wednesday, but our listeners can also catch us by our podcast.
That's right. They can see us on iHeartRadio. Just remember to look for New Zealand Sport Radio.
Fantastic. And we've got some exciting news this week, and we'll cover all of that. We'll cover off round 13. We'll cover off round 14, and we'll have a look at round 15 as well, with our picks thrown in there to keep you updated on where we stand on those. We'll also update you on the women's game and the news from the Super League in the United Kingdom. So in saying that, let's crack into the top stories of the week, Brad.
Yeah, definitely. I think first story would be the NRL forcing the Warriors to drop the Vodafone as the naming rights sponsor after 22 years. As we know, in recent developments, Telstra have actually backed down on this now and allowing the Warriors to keep the Vodafone naming rights at least until the end of their current contract, which is 2 years. So what were your thoughts on it?
Oh yeah, at first when I thought the timing couldn't have been could have been a lot better. I think it was a pretty dire time to address this kind of thing, particularly after COVID-19 and the current state of the game, which is the game itself is in good stead, but obviously numbers limited, therefore financially the clubs are suffering. So I thought that it was a pretty poor time to address it. However, I didn't know that after they've addressed it, you've said that now the Warriors have got 2 more years to use the Vodafone branding and the Vodafone as a sponsor.
That's what I believe. Yeah, they Vodafone still had 2 years left on the contract, and from what I've seen from Telstra, they've said they're more than welcome to keep that contract going. So in 2 years' time, I believe Telstra's contract's up at that time. So I assume once they're both up, I think Telstra will probably say no from now on. It's done. But right. 2 years away still gives you time to prepare and plan, as opposed to saying in a couple of months you're gone.
Yes, well, at this stage, I think it was planned for the end of the season. So now that we've got that extra 2 years, that's something for the Warriors to not have to worry about at the moment. They've got a rebuilding phase going on at the moment, and got some heavy personnel coming over, and we just need to be able to concentrate on the football. So, another news this week. Obviously, the Broncos fined $140,000 for their breach of the COVID restrictions, that was quite a hefty fine considering what's going on at that club at the moment, Brad.
Yeah, so it was a bit weird because last week they announced that they were cleared of any wrongdoings, and then this week they get fined 140 grand. So I don't know if more information came to light or what have you, but that's a pretty big fine there, and yeah, it's not really the Broncos' year, is it? But hopefully they learn their lesson and they stop skipping out.
Yeah, it definitely looks like it's going from bad to worse for the Broncos, unfortunately. It's like you say, it's not their season. They're destined to perhaps get the wooden spoon at the back end of this one as well. And we'll have a look at that a little bit later on. But unfortunately for the Broncos, another really disappointing aspect to their whole club, really, in 2020. So let's see what happens going forward. But SBW returning to the Roosters, returning to training this weekend, apparently just, was looking all cut and looking all ready to go, and everyone's all quite impressed. And we're going to see Sonny Bill man of the match in his first game back by the sounds of things.
Yeah, I think they're pretty happy, but I think they've been smart by not rushing them back into the side. Like, I know the Roosters have got a lot of injuries right now, but you don't need to just rush them back just for the sake of it. I think give them a few more weeks in training, and I reckon you'll see them probably the last 3 rounds before playoffs, because they're obviously going to be in the playoff contention. So
yeah, I'd be putting him out there this weekend if he's available, to be perfectly honest. Honestly, 30 minutes of Sonny Bill out there on the weekend, they'll work wonders for this Roosters team that is hampered by injuries. We'll cover that off a little bit later as well. But Sonny's ready to go, man. Why would you hold him back? He's not as young as what he used to be, obviously. He wants to play. Let him play. He'll go out there and make a difference. I reckon put him on the field, man. See what you can do on the weekend. That'd be awesome.
Well, they haven't listened to you this week, but maybe they'll listen to you for next week.
You never know.
Also, going back to our Warriors again, there's actually been some identity theft in the Central Coast where as we've got into the COVID lockdown in Auckland again here, where you have to sign in everywhere you go, there's been people signing Warriors names at the bars they've been going to and reporting Warriors players are out on the piss.
That's a very huge allegation for people to be making. So there's people actually going out there and pretending to be the Vodafone Warriors and getting on the piss hard at these establishments.
Yeah,
why
and
would they do that?
No one seems to know why, but the NRL and the Warriors have done their own separate investigations on it to make sure that the boys aren't actually skipping out, and they've all been cleared. And I think there was a story, one of the wives, they didn't say whose wife, was at one of these bars during the day and saw her husband's name there, saying that they were there at the same time type deal, and that he wasn't there. So, yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there, but it's a bit more of a, it's not a good news story, but it's a bit more lighthearted due to the fact that the Warriors haven't been in the wrong in this scenario, thankfully.
No, that's good. I mean, I'm glad that those allegations are false, and I mean, it's a pretty good club in that respects. They're pretty well disciplined, to be fair. They've had the odd hiccup here or there, but nothing to suggest that they would be going out to bars and getting highly intoxicated when you basically putting others at risk during this COVID period. So no, I'm glad to see that knocked out of the water. But in other news, we've got Kevin Proctor having a bit of a bite this week. Yes,
just a nibble.
Just a little bit of a nibble, costing him 4 weeks, as you say. So, Kevin, guilty or innocent, Brad?
I'm on the fence. I don't believe he actually did the biting action, but the footage that they show you can definitely argue that he did as well. So it's unfortunate.
What footage are you talking about? To be honest, all I have seen is a couple of slides where his mouth is open and his teeth are exposed, and they are on the arm of Sean Johnson. Yes, you don't see. Is that a bite, really? We always watch these things in super slow mo. If you watch that at normal speed, is that a bite or is that a forearm going past the teeth area? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not defending it. All I'm saying is, I don't know. Like, you got to look at his record: 250 games, one incident in front of the judiciary, and all that time. He's not a dirty player. He's the captain. He's the leader of this side. He's saying he didn't do it. Johnson is basically saying he didn't do it, not in those words. I think that it's to be done for 4 weeks could be looking pretty hard done by, and bit of a blemish on the old CV there for Kevin Proctor, who has been doing some pretty good things leading this Titans group. And you'd hope to think that he'd be the captain next year, because they've got some big artillery coming, and he wants to be part of the winning side, I'm sure.
Yeah, the Titans seem interested to re-sign him, which is good for him, and I think he'll do well in that team. I saw on the little note that we had there about teeth marks on the arm, there was apparently Perinara identified there was red marks on the arm, but at the end of the game, Sean Johnson refused to have his arm photographed. So even when they were punishing him, they didn't have that as evidence. So.
Oh, sure. Yeah, Sean, he was defending it pretty stoutly in the interviews after match. But I think, for Perinara to see red scuff marks during the game, and maybe the 60th minute, fast-paced, gentleman running around, one little red mark here or there, I think that he'd be seeing red dots everywhere, to be honest, if he's going to look at those. So I don't think you can read too much into that. Anyway, it's done. He's got 4 weeks, so he'll come back for the last couple of rounds for the Titans, and basically that will be his season. Hopefully he's done enough to put himself into a Kiwis jersey if and when we see international football return. We'll keep you updated, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us this evening. Also, we've got the Panthers looking to rewrite history books, trying to go 10 straight. On target for that, they've set a new club record at the weekend, a 50-year club record of 9 victories on the trot. Fantastic performance from them, Ivan and Nathan. The Clearys really taking their club to all levels this year, Brad.
Yeah, it's definitely a great record for them to have. I don't think they should have got the 9th win, but they got it, and I'm pretty confident they'll get their 10th. this week. And I think the Storm are actually up to their 8th win in a row at the moment too. So there's a few teams getting 7th, so 8th this week. So there's a few teams having a good run.
There are a few teams having a good run, and we'll cover that off in the preview of round 14 in a little bit. Obviously, we have Desi Hasler on the weekend throwing spanners at the press, and basically he was basically a man who was very, very much boiling in the inside. Didn't express that, but he almost copped himself a little bit of a fine as well, I would say, having a bit of a go.
I think he's found the cheat because they haven't fined him at all. And he basically was very close to saying what Ivan did. He just said it in a cheeky way, which might be the hack. If you're just saying you're having a bit of a laugh, they might let you off. So we might see a lot more coaches try that.
I think they're awfully sensitive of what is said to and said about referees after the game. I mean, the public can see it in plain sight what goes on. So, the coaches, I mean, they have to be very tight-lipped. I do agree, but I think that there should be a little bit of expression allowed in terms of how they feel the match was refereed. And if it was refereed poorly, well, I think a coach should be able to come out and say that. But yeah, I guess there's always going to be a bit of bias one way, depending on which side of the fence you're on. We did see for the first time this season, though, ladies and gentlemen, the fact that, it was a really tight round, and there was only 2 real disappointing games, being the Broncos getting thrashed, and the other game, of course, on Thursday night, the Roosters going down, a depleted Roosters going down to the Storm. Very, very interesting outcome to that one. Not many would have predicted it. I certainly didn't. But the Storm are now looking as hot a favourites as anyone for that second place, Brad.
Yeah, definitely. So they Storm won 24-6, and I thought it was going to be close, but I didn't think it was going to be a runaway like that, especially when the Storm don't have some of their key players as well. I know everyone's talking about the Roosters right now, but I picked the Roosters solely on the fact that Cameron Smith and Cameron Munster weren't there for the Storm, and they looked like they had no worries at all without them.
Yeah, this is the depth of the Melbourne Storm and Craig Bellamy and his lads. They're very, very, very strong and disciplined rugby league outfit. We know that, but they've also got depth which carries them through these tough times. They were, not struggling one iota without the likes of, a Munster and Smith. Now, Munster even joked on the league show the other day that I was watching. He said he's got to go out and find a new club soon because, they just had a fantastic game on the weekend. And Jerome Hughes as well, a former fullback who was basically almost near the end of his playing career, it would have seemed to a lot of people. He actually came out and had a blinder at halfback. And it's taken this side to another level, having those kind of reserves. We still got Brandon Smith, I think, was playing on the weekend. But was Brandon Smith playing on the weekend, Brett?
He was, yeah. He had a really good game.
So, I mean, he was definitely another person who is looking at going to the Tigers, incidentally. So, got to keep holding on to him for that depth to be, continuing. So, I think that the Melbourne Storm, they're definitely going to be there or thereabouts come the finals.
Yeah, I think the Roosters, as bad as it is right now, I think they're still in for a chance. Once they get those players back, it's going to be towards the end of the rounds and heading into playoffs. Sonny Bill, as we've already mentioned, will be there as well. They've got a lot of talent, so it's not the end for the Roosters. It was just a little bit of a hiccup, I think. They made a few too many errors.
Yeah, I think the Roosters, they are lacking a little bit of that firepower up front. However, I mean, they've got Daniel Tupou, Waerea-Hargreaves back soon with Sonny Bill, Brett Morris and Angus Crichton to follow. So they've got some big stock to come through. So I think that they will be fine around that finals time. And of course, there have been a few players that have been rested in recent times. I know that Carey's now got the injury, so there's going to have to be a bit of a spotlight on that. But I think that they will still be there or thereabouts come the finals. Storm looked great though. Can't deny them from thundering on into the final series, Brad.
Definitely, yeah. I think they're definitely going to have a good run at it. I think it could be one of these teams could possibly be in there against the Panthers in the final, I believe.
And that leads us on, ladies and gentlemen, to Friday night, where we had the Warriors unfortunately going down to the Panthers in a very close encounter, one which I felt deserved a lot more attention than it has been given since that time. Warriors going down 18 points to 12, Brad, and what was a very, very gritty performance in pretty poor conditions, but it was a pretty good performance from the Panthers to edge out the Warriors in this one, to be fair.
Yeah, I thought I was going to get the upset when you bullied me into changing my picks last week, and I had to back the Warriors.
You were close. You were close. I'll give you that.
I was very close. I think they were a bit hard done by the Warriors. There was 2 moments in the game which I think the calls were incorrect. Hiku's foot on the line when they said that it was another set for the Panthers, and also Hiku again because he likes to get himself in the mix. When Stephen Crichton intercepted his pass when it looked like the Warriors were going to go over in the corner again, Crichton was actually about 1.5 meters offside. So
yes, I did notice that, and I thought, well, they've missed another call there, and those are those like desperate type of calls that you need in a rugby league game like this one, where it's so close. It was a very, very good performance I felt from the Vodafone Warriors as well.
Oh, definitely. I think Todd Payton said it best when he said that he was impressed with the effort but disappointed in the result. So I think that's the right way to be right now. You can't. This Panthers team has been making games look like training runs the last few weeks. So the fact that the Warriors, who myself included, when the season started, with them all over in Australia, basically they were written off. And by this time of the year, they'd be just getting hammered and looking at getting on a plane to come home. So they've found some grit, whether that's through Payton or just being in camp together. I'm not sure what, but it's definitely making. Yeah, and I think it's definitely something that I hope they keep on to for next season, because I think they'll be competitive next year if they do that.
Yeah, I think with the news that Phil Gill and Nathan Brown coming over, and obviously Kearney's been moved on, Payton's been the interim coach. The Warriors are trying to go forward. They've got a couple of signings under their belt now for next year, so they're also looking for the future. But I think that they also are starting to believe that they can beat some of these top teams. And to be honest, I think that they can. I mean, if you have a look at the last 4 weeks, they've actually beaten. They've won 2 games and they've lost 2 to the Roosters and the Panthers. So, yeah, it's pretty hard to say that they're not playing some good football over this last four weeks or so. Okay, I can't say that they've been playing the best throughout the season, but look, they could have been getting pantsed last weekend and the weekend before, and just like you say, getting ready to hop onto a plane. But this club has made a little bit more gusto than that, and I'm pretty disappointed for them, to be honest, in the sense that on the weekend they had a pretty good performance, and it wasn't even hailed by the Australian media that much. Yes, there were a number of great games on the weekend that deserved airtime, but I felt that the Warriors game was a really, really good game of rugby league. It's one that they almost stole from the number 1 Panthers, who are 8 on the trot. So, yeah, pretty disappointed. Brad, what were your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I was a bit disappointed with it too, actually. When the big league wrap, I watch it every week, they got to the game. It was about a 2-minute piece about the whole game, and about 30 seconds of it was about the Warriors. And
I think only one sentence, to be precise, was about the Warriors, and that was when Michael Ennis said the Warriors they were in the way or something to that effect, pretty much. And that was all that was really said about them. They went on to talk about this racial abuse story, which I don't think deserves any more airtime than it has been given. We'll give it a quick mention. I mean, there's a couple of idiots that have been ejected from the game for racial slurs, but the amount of attention that the media gives it over there, it's like, well, that's what's bringing the game more into disrepute, I would have thought. So, yeah, a little bit disappointed, to be honest, in respect to that. But I think on the positive note for the Panthers, I mean, they are a club that's going to make history by all accounts, by perhaps winning 10 in a row this weekend. And also Cleary, I reckon he's on target for Daily M Player of the Year.
Yeah, now there's a little bit of an issue with him with the Dally M is there's a rule for Dally M's that if you are suspended at any time, you get points deducted. So he's getting 6 points deducted for the TikTok thing at the beginning, but all the players that were around him are out injured at the moment. So I think he's going to have no problems making up that discrepancy. So I think, yeah, if you're a betting man, I'd quite comfortably put money on him to get Dally M still.
And ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about Cameron Smith, Mitchell Moses, Harry Grant, and Luke Keary, who was now out injured after the weekend. So those are the 4 players that are in and around Nathan Cleary for the Dally M Player of the Year. I don't expect to see Sean Johnson's name there, but I mean, he's been playing some good football, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. And definitely as a halfback, if we have a look at some of the stats, which we'll go through, it's unbelievable how he wouldn't even get a mention, considering some of the stats that he's managed to generate this year. But yeah, I think we'll move on from the Warriors game. We had Friday night. We had the Eels versus the Dragons. The Dragons' last game for Paul McGregor, and before he was leaving the club. And they came out winners, 14 points to 12 against the Eels side, which has been suffering in the last few weeks. Brad, how did you see this one play out?
Yeah, it wasn't a result I expected, but it was good to see the Dragons decide to step up and make McGregor's last game a good one. And the Eels, I think my biggest issue for the Eels and what is going to plague them for the rest of the season now is their try-scoring machine, Sivo, on the wing, got exposed defensively very, very heavily. And I think we're going to see a lot of teams start targeting him now because Ravalawa was against him and he looked the more experienced, more devastating winger, and they're both as inexperienced as each other. So it's, yeah, defense is going to be an issue for him. I think we've seen that with a few big wingers, but I think the Eels, I don't know if they just took the Dragons too lightly or the Dragons just really wanted to make the last-ditch effort for McGregor.
Well, hey, look, the Eels are going to be dropping. They could drop out of the top 4, and they've got the Storm this week. So that was a lucky escape. And it was also a lucky escape, really, to be fair, against the Sharks last week. So imagine that. They lost the Sharks. They lost this one. They lose the Storm, losing 3 in a row. Whew. You wouldn't put them as the top 2 teams of the round, would you? You wouldn't put them as the top 2 teams after this round. But anyway, that game hasn't yet to be played. We'll have a look at that on next week on episode 13 because we'll watch that game on Thursday. But on Saturday night, we had the Sharks taking out the Titans, 30 points to 18, and a pretty decent game, marred from the fact that Proctor had a bit of a feed on the pitch.
Yeah, I think up until that point, I think the Titans were right in the game, and I could have confidently said that they might have come away victors if Proctor hadn't been sent off. We will never know, but I think they really, despite the performances, a bit like a team we're going to talk about a bit later in the Bulldogs, where they are playing above their weight and really putting an effort in, and I think they're definitely going to be a team to look out for next year. Unfortunately for this year, though, it looks like Jai Arrow is out for the season, who is their big forward right now. So a bit unfortunate there, but Johnson hurt himself too for the Sharks, but he looks to be okay. And
hasn't he been playing some football? I mean, he had a great game again on the weekend, leading the competition in try assists. I would say almost another man of the match performance on the weekend as well, to go with his last 4 to 5 weeks of football. He's one of the top halves in the comp running around at the moment, you'd have to say, Brad.
I think so. I think that especially over the last month or so, he's really seemed to become a consistent half, which has kind of been the bugbear for Warriors fans because we were screaming to see him be consistent here.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it shows how dangerous a footballer he is, and the fact that he can do it week in, week out now makes the Sharks a very good team.
Well, he's running behind a different pack, isn't he? I guess he will come back to saying the reason I was inconsistent, perhaps in Auckland or for New Zealand Warriors, for that matter, was the fact that he would probably say that he wasn't getting the ball that he is getting behind the Sharks pack, and I think there's some truth in that because he does look a little bit more freer around the ruck when he is playing for them, and of course he's not that young buck 20-year-old anymore either. So he's probably lost a little bit of pace, to be fair. I mean, I was watching some of his highlights. I don't think he's fast as what he used to be fair, but his game's becoming more of a smarter game as a halfback. He's picking the gaps, making the right plays at the right time. So, look, I think they're gaining some momentum as well, quietly, the Sharks. That's 7 from the last 9 now. Okay, I know most of those have been against teams below them or in the bottom tier of the competition. But they're waiting for Townsend to return, and it should be a goodie this weekend versus the Panthers, and they must start well if they're going to win that one.
Yeah, I think this is where we very often disagree. I know the Sharks are a good team, but I don't think they're going to make the playoffs very long. They haven't beaten a top 8 team yet all year. No one above them they've beaten. So theoretically, that means they're exactly where they should be on the ladder because they beat everyone below them, can't beat anyone above them. But I think, yeah, we'll have a better indication on how they'll go in the Panthers this week.
Yeah, it'll be a very interesting game. I'm really looking forward to that. So, yeah, in terms of the Titans, they're just getting better and better, and they look good. 11 line breaks at the weekend. So, Justin Holbrook and the lads, they're doing a good job. But we'll move on now to Saturday evening, where we had the Cowboys and the Rabbitohs in pretty much a very, very entertaining game of rugby league, perhaps the match of the round. And yeah, the Rabbitohs ending up victors, 31 points to 30, Brad.
Yeah, I agree with it being the match of the round. It was very entertaining. Was a lot closer than it should have been. The Rabbitohs would never have dreamed to be winning that one by a field goal before the game started, and I don't think anyone watching would have been confident that the Cowboys would do that well. But Michael Morgan, after giving him a bit of grief last week, he had a lot better showing.
He had a great game.
So it's good to see. I think the Cowboys can take some confidence in that, and their little fullback / winger, the Hammer. He's now they say he's now the fastest player in the NRL, and
that's right. Yes, he's a bit of a speedster, that fellow.
And he looks like he doesn't even change gear.
His try 10.58 seconds, 100 meters in 10.58 or something ridiculous like that. Sorry to interrupt, Brett.
Yeah, no, it's devastatingly fast. And I think at the moment in his young career, putting him on the wings probably the best thing for him because they can get him that space that he needs with that pace. And you get him a little bit of space and give him the ball, and I don't see many people being able to catch up.
No, he certainly had a great game, but Anna Reynolds had a fantastic game as well, obviously kicking the winning field goal, orchestrating play, setting up a try for himself as well up the middle. So it was a really entertaining game, like you say. One perhaps that the Cowboys should have won, though. I felt that they were certainly the team that had all the momentum at the back end. Quite a few misconversions and just silly 7 tackle errors as well, letting the Rabbitohs just drift up the field. And, they didn't need too many attempts at it. And they got down there and bang, they kicked the 1-pointer and come away with the victory, to much dismay of Cowboys fans.
Yeah, I think when you finish a game and you've scored more tries than your opponents, but you still lose,
that's devastating.
Yeah, that's going to be a huge hit to your confidence. So I'm sure Kyle Phelps probably put a few more extra hours into his goal kicking this week.
I think that was the case. The Sharks, I think, against the Eels, wasn't it? They scored more tries than the Eels last week. They scored 3 tries to 2. And we had the Sharks Johnson not being able to pop over a conversion. So similar sort of instance, ladies and gentlemen, in this one. So the Cowboys, well played, playing for pride. So good on them. They look like they're getting better, and hopefully they'll be there or thereabouts next season. Moving on to the other Saturday night fixture, ladies and gentlemen, we had the Raiders thumping the Broncos 36 points to 8. Again, Broncos absolutely disappointing. Couldn't really expect much from them. They're really on a hiding to nothing at the moment. They look down and out. No Seabold. The captain is calling them an embarrassment. Payne Haas at the weekend, obviously, he's got issues now. So, hey, what is there to say about Brisbane, Brad? Where do you go to from here?
You just throw it in the bin and set it on fire, really. I don't know what's happened at that club, but they need to completely start from scratch. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. We all kind of expected this type of score before the game happened, but they showed up in the first half. They were actually leading at halftime, and
something happens at halftime to them, which is just makes them go kaput, because we've seen in most of the games at halftime they just lose it.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's a lack of confidence. Well, they can't be that confident with how their season's gone, but there seems to be some mental weakness there, which is usually a brush that the Warriors get tarred with, because normally the Warriors, as they say, 60 minutes, if you stick with the Warriors, you'll beat them in the last 20. And that's thankfully doesn't seem to be happening anymore, but it seems to be that with the Broncos, that if you keep within them by half time, you got them in the second half.
Yeah, unfortunately, no one likes to be wooden spooners, but they probably, unfortunately, do deserve it this year. The way that the clubs played and the way that things have gone for them, they probably, for the first time in their history, look like they may get the wooden spoon. And that would be disastrous for the Brisbane Broncos club. Very proud club at that, but every week we're on, we're unfortunately not being able to say too many positive things about them, unfortunately. So, yeah, look, just in regards to Payne Haas, crusher tackle 2 to 3 weeks. He's looking at on the sidelines is also another blow to their squad, and he's pretty much the best player at the moment at 20 years of age, I think. So, look, we'll move on to Sunday's fixtures. We had the Knights versus the Seagulls, and another fantastic game, a tight game, a high try-scoring, entertaining game at that. 26 points to 24, Brad. Really, this weekend we really saw the fullback make his mark on this Seagulls outfit.
Yeah, definitely. I think Ponga had a great game. I think Blake Green there now, like we love talking about Blake Green. I think him being there has taken a lot of pressure off Ponga, and Kurt Mann moving into number 9. He's been playing really well there, which I've never been a hooker, so I don't know. But Michael Innes has said that it's such a hard position to just get thrown into if you're not a natural hooker. So the fact that they've got a number 6,
very demanding position.
So the fact that he's moved into 9 and still playing well is kudos to what a talent he actually is.
Yeah, look, Manly, they came out, they were pretty brave. They were leading 12-0 at one point, and they started very well. But unfortunately, a lot of errors throughout the game, and they just, in the end, got beat up on that left side as well. I think quite physically dominated, and Ponga and Green, that's where they were sort of hanging around at the back end of that ruck. And, they just tore them apart. And unfortunately, whilst they scored quite a few tries to compete with Newcastle, they just couldn't match them physically. I felt that that's where the game was lost, and I think that they really need a little bit of speed back, and they'll be waiting for Tommy, who I think is 2 weeks away.
Yeah, 2 weeks. So I think in a fortnight we might see the Seagulls get a bit of a run maybe. But yeah, for the next 2 weeks without Tommy Turbo, I think they're going to have some more heartbreak.
Yeah, the Knights are on target for a top 8 finish, obviously. Back-to-back wins now after a couple of sloppy performances in the middle there. So they're looking like that they will make the 8. And it's been the first time in a long time. I don't know how far they will go. But if they can get there, they're another one of these sides that with the likes of Ponga, Green, Pearce, they can make a game of it. So we'll just have to wait and see for them. Hasler, he had another go, like we said, at the refs. Just joking in the end. So there won't be any bank account transfers from his end. So thankfully for him. But on Sunday, we had the West Tigers, 29 points to 28, another drop kick winning a game. And we had the Benji brothers going at it, Brad.
Yeah, this one was an interesting game. It was, again, another game like the Cowboys one where it was a lot closer than it should have been. But I was sitting there secretly going for the Bulldogs. It was going to cost me a pick. But it did mean that the Bulldogs would finally get off the bottom of the ladder. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. I think, though, if Kieran Foran had stayed on the field, I think the Bulldogs would have walked away winners here and basically ruined any chances the Tigers had of making the top 8.
Yeah, I think, look, I'll be honest with you. I think that the Tigers' chances of the top 8, I don't think that they are anything too great. I think that they will miss the 8. But regardless of that, yeah, a fantastic game from the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. I mean, they've had a really tough season as well. Kieran Foran did play well, and I have to agree with you. I think that him leaving the pitch with that injury definitely turned the game in the Tigers' favour. And again, it was another case of just like the Cowboys game. They should have won this, the Bulldogs, I felt. They came back from a really huge deficit to score something like 22 points to nothing. And the momentum was all theirs, just like it was for the Cowboys. But just pipped at the post by someone who could kick a field goal, because of the Bulldogs did have a couple of shots at it, and they were just unable. And I believe Benji's brother had a shot at field goal, did he?
He did, yeah. He is a good little talent, but he's just a little bit inexperienced at the moment. I think you'll see him show up a bit more regularly next season. I think he'll quite possibly push himself into the starting role. Just where that is going to be, I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, like I said, the Tigers, the reason why I say it's going to be difficult to make the 8, I mean, their run home, they've got the Roosters, Panthers, Eagles, Rabbitohs, Storm, then Eels. Ouch. That
Yeah.
is going to take some team to come across those, and with favourable results. They probably need to win at least 4 to 5 of those 6 games, and I don't see that happening, unfortunately, for Michael Maguire and Benji Marshall. So,
No.
but the Bulldogs, yeah, look, playing much better than their ladder position, and had Foran not gone out injured, definitely I think they would have won that game.
Yeah.
Luke Brooks, though, stepping up and getting the field goal for the Tigers, he definitely needed to have a big game. He's been getting paid the big bucks, and he did come up with a big play at the weekend, Brad.
Yeah, I suppose that's what you kind of pay your money for, the big bucks to have a match winner, and that's what he was. He's a bit rocks and diamonds still, I think, for me, but I think as a Tigers fan, when you're that close and you need someone to step up, I think they're very happy that he has.
Excellent. That covers off our round 14, and we'll jump into our round 14 picks. Brad, and we saw that, unfortunately, again, I think for the 4th week in a row, you've beaten me by 1 game, I think, in each of those weeks. I think there was one round in the middle there where we even Stevens, but you're now leading.
No, I'm still leading, but you got me this round because of the Warriors one. You got me by 1.
Oh, I got you this round. Okay, sorry, I was reading it wrong. Okay, so 5 out of 8 versus 6 out of 8. So yes, you had the Warriors down to beat the Panthers. Thanks very much. I'll take the 1 point. So I gain 1 on you this week, and therefore leaves us at 62 versus 66 out of 88 games.
Definitely, yeah. So it's still close, I guess.
And we've got some viewer questions there, Paul, today.
Yep, absolutely. Jordan asks from the live chat, do you think the NRL can police the crusher tackle, and will some mitigating factors alleviate a lot of long suspensions?
Ooh, Brad.
It's
a good question.
They've recently just changed the gradings. So for all the infringements you do, they have a point system, and the more points you get sorts out how long you could be gone for. And they've actually, for the crusher tackle, they've increased the points it has, which I think that basically means if you get a crusher tackle, now you're almost guaranteed to see some time. And I think the NRL, 2 weeks. So I think the NRL's idea on it is by increasing that, it's going to reduce players doing it. We'll see if that actually happens, but it's a hard one because a lot of the crusher tackles aren't done on purpose. It's just the way the body moves. And I don't know what they're going to do. That's not really an answer. Sorry, Jordan.
No, it's a difficult one though, Brad. Like you say, crusher tackle in the sport of rugby league, it's not something that is always controlled. It's not something done deliberately, like you say, on occasion. So there is a bit of a grey area with that one, unfortunately.
Then one from me, actually. Is it time? You talk about the close games here, and even if you're closer, you get no rewards. So is it time for the NRL to introduce losing bonus points?
I don't think so. Brad, what do you think? No, I don't think so. I think, this is a sport that has never had the bonus point system in it. It doesn't need it. I think if you look at the caliber of the games played at the weekend, I think besides 2 of the games, even the Roosters game for that matter, there's only 1 game that wasn't really pleasant to the eye, and that was the Broncos game. All of the other games were fantastic games of football at the weekend, and we've got Golden Point. I just don't think there's a need for a bonus point system.
I don't think they'll want to get into a situation where you've got an 8th place team that's lost more games than a 9th place team, and the 9th place team gets the boot when you get to playoffs, just because that 8th place team lost by a try 3 more times more.
It'd be actually funny to see how many bonus points the Warriors would have racked up over the years, because they've actually been on the receiving end of many a game where they've just lost it, and they could have made the 8 heaps of times. So maybe they should bring it in.
You're just changing direction.
Yeah.
And maybe preempting what you're talking about, guys, but are there any internationals, talking about later, but are there any international schedules, Jordan asks?
Not at the moment. I think at the moment, the NRL, all they care about at the end of the season is Origin, and they don't really care about the international game right now. And I think there's probably concerns from the New Zealand side that a lot of those players want to come home and might not be able to get back into Australia for an international game. And at the moment, with how everything is here, I don't see our government letting players from Australia or Tonga come over here.
I thought there was a rumor of a Kiwis Tonga game, but maybe
there's rumors, but nothing.
There was rumors of a rugby league versus rugby union test match. Have we heard anything about that since that time? No. I think everyone put that to bed rather quickly, didn't they?
True. That's it, guys.
No worries. Well, look, thanks for that, Paul. Well, we've got round 15 coming up this weekend, but I think we'll, Paul, if you've got the table there, usually have a look at the standings of the round, but we'll just crack into round 15 while we get that. Oh, here we go.
There you go.
So, yeah, basically, as of at the end of round 14, we've got the Panthers on top, looking for their 10th straight this weekend. Storm, Eels, and Roosters make up the top 4. Raiders, Knights, Sharks, and the Rabbitohs making up the probable 8, Brad, leading us into the bottom tier teams.
Yeah, which we see the Tigers, Seagulls, Dragons, Warriors from 9 to 12 with the Titans, Cowboys, Broncos, Bulldogs at the bottom of the pack.
And yeah, pretty much you would probably have to say that, those top 10 teams now you would probably suggest have a crack at making the top 8. Last week, I think it was 11 we sort of agreed on. And the week before that, we may have even given 13th place a chance. But realistically, you would probably, ladies and gentlemen, see your top 8 consist of the teams from 1 to 10. And most likely, the top 8 is pretty much what you're looking at right there, I would suggest. Slim chances for the Warriors and the Dragons. They can still make it. But they'd have to also hope for results in their favour from other teams as well, because with the Warriors' points differential at negative 137, they would have to be they'd have to be beating that 8th position, not just on points, not just points for and against. They'd have to be beating on actual competition points, you would feel, to get into the top 8.
Yeah, I think the only team in the top 8 that isn't safe right now is the Rabbitohs. I think the Rabbitohs are probably the only ones that will drop out. The Tigers I've written off already with that draw that you've shown. I don't see them getting enough wins to sneak up. Seagulls, depending on how well they go once they get their players back, they do have a chance. The Warriors' draw isn't actually that bad now. So if things go their way, they could. But yeah, I think maybe one team might slip in, boot the Rabbitohs out if the Rabbitohs don't keep wins coming along.
Yeah, I'd say that would be a pretty fair assessment. I'd have to agree. I think that the Rabbitohs are the only team that could potentially drop out of that 8. Okay, the Knights haven't been playing the best football over the last month or so, but they have now got back-to-back victories in the last 2 weeks. So, they're potentially, and Green's just gotten there, so maybe they're just going to get better and better. So, now look, we'll have to wait and see, but we'll go into the round 15 and have a look at what that looks like, ladies and gentlemen. On Thursday night, we've got the Eels versus the Stormers, which promises to be another humdinger of a top-of-the-table clash. The Eels on downward spiral at the moment, though, and at the moment, I can't believe the Storm are actually paying $2.30 to the Eels $1.62, Brad.
Yeah, so who have you got for this?
Oh, I'm going to back in the Storm. I think that the Storm are going to be too clinical. They took out the Roosters on the weekend, and they did it with a consummate amount of ease. So yeah, I'm going to go for the Storm. Hey, who are you backing in this one?
I'm going with the Eels. So
okay, I see. Yes, well, you're going for the odds-on, but good luck.
Yeah, I think the Storm have got a great shot of walking away with the win here, but I think a full Eels roster against a Storm roster missing some of its stars, they might just have a slight edge.
Yeah, you never know. It'll be an interesting game at that, though, on Thursday. On Friday night, we've got another eagerly anticipated game, in my opinion, anyway. I've got the Panthers versus the Sharks. The Panthers odds on, and I will take the Panthers for the win. But, I'll be very keen to see the Sharks do well in this one. If they are going to make a go of 2020, this will be the point where they'll be talking to themselves this week as well. Johnson and the team, if they can, knock off the Sharks, they'll bode well for them to try and win the competition if they've got a chance in 2020. What do you say, Brad?
Yeah, I'm going with the Panthers as well, but this is really the step up point for the Sharks. This will definitely tell them if they've got what it takes to go deep in playoffs or not, judging on how they play.
Absolutely. On Friday, we've got the Broncos versus the Dragons. I've got the Dragons down for this one. I don't think there needs to be too much said about that. It'd be good if the Broncos perhaps can get a victory or two under their belt, but the way that the Dragons played last week and the way that they've been playing this season is a little bit better than the Broncos, so it's a no-brainer for me.
I don't see the Broncos getting another win this year, so I'm going with the Dragons.
Cool. On Saturday, we've got the Titans versus the Raiders. The Titans haven't done enough for me to suggest that they're going to beat the Raiders this weekend, so I've got the Raiders well and truly. I mean, I've backed them quite a bit this season, and I really have, talked them up because I think they're an up-and-coming side. I think they're going to be really good over the next couple of years, but I just don't see them beating a Raiders team, which is resurgent now, heading towards the final series, and they're looking better and better all of a sudden. And, it's going to be an interesting top 4, top 8 scenario this year, and we've got some exciting rugby league ahead of us.
Definitely.
On Saturday, Brad, who else have we got?
On Saturday, we've got the Tigers paying $3.10 to go up against the Roosters paying $1.37. So I've gone with the Roosters in this one.
Yes, I'll take the Roosters as well. I think that the Roosters are going to be too strong for the Tigers. And unfortunately, I think this will be the beginning of the end for Benji and the boys in 2020. However, on the flip side, they need to win this one. So it'll be an interesting contest. It's a local derby, East versus West. So, it should be interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And then the last game on Saturday is the Rabbitohs paying $1.35 against the Seagulls paying $3.25. I've gone with another R team. I've gone with the Rabbitohs again. I think Seagulls, too many injuries still.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Rabbits as well. I think, until Tommy Trbojevic comes back and a few other players, they're still lacking depth, unfortunately, Manly. If they had a full roster, I reckon they'd be a top 6 team this year. If they had a full roster on the park at all times, they would be a threat, I would say. But, with the injuries that they've had, unfortunately, it just puts them down that ladder to where they are right now. And so, I'll back in the Rabbitohs. And on Sunday, we've got the Bulldogs versus our Warriors. Interesting game because, as you saw, the Bulldogs, they're not going to just turn up every week and just give you 2 competition points. Unfortunately, so that's what we need this weekend. But this is one of those scary games for the Warriors, Brad. Like, I mean, it's one of those games where, geez, we'd expect to win it after the last 4 weeks of play. You'd say, I'll back them in. I'm going to go for the Warriors, but it could be a tight tussle, and I wouldn't be surprised if, we lose this one.
Yeah, like Jordan said there, we'll probably lose to the Bulldogs to cement that inconsistency tag. It is. I'm backing the Warriors here. They should win. I hope they win, but it is a game they might lose. They've lost some players this week. So Patrick Herbert's out. Haynes Perham's come in, so it'll be good to see the young guy get a bit of a run. But they should have enough. They've shown that grit, which at the moment the Bulldogs, they're showing that they've got it there for almost the whole game. So as long as the Warriors have it for a little bit more, they should be fine.
Yeah, I think that it should be a very interesting clash as well. Like, even though they're bottom of the table, they'll be wanting to get off there, and the Warriors are still wanting to try and progress this season. So definitely one to keep an eye on. Following that game, we've got the Knights versus the Cowboys. I'm taking the Knights on this one to continue their winning form, go up there and win the 2 points, and come away with it. Same
here. I think, Cowboys showed some promise, but I think the Knights have finally righted their ship as they're looking at playoffs. So I think they're going to start putting some performances together.
And we've got some news from across the world in the Super League there, Brad. We've got Wigan defeating Leeds 28 points to 10 to stay on top of the table.
Yeah, so it's kind of looking at the moment like their competition to lose. A little bit biased. I'm a Wigan fan, so I'm not too disappointed with that. But also Hull and Salford's games were delayed due to the COVID scare we talked about last week. They've reshuffled the draw, so Wakefield's now facing Catalans and Castleford's taking on St. Helens to give Hull and Salford some a little bit more time to recover. I believe none of them Salford have had no positive tests, which is good, but Hull still have those 6 cases. So it's still watch the space with what happens with Hull, but Hull FC, I should say as well, since there's 2 of them over there. But be interesting to see what actually happens. Yeah, definitely.
Well, that brings us to the conclusion of our show, ladies and gentlemen, this evening. Thank you for joining us. It's been interesting and exciting as ever to bring you the round 14 news, wrap up preview of round 15, and the top stories of the week. Brad, the ladies and gentlemen that were unable to tune in tonight, they can also catch us via our podcast.
That's right. So on iHeartRadio or Facebook, just remember to search for New Zealand Sport Radio.
And we'll be back here next Wednesday to have a look at round 16 and cover up round 15. And we'll catch up with you on that occasion, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much and good evening.
Good evening.